Welcome. Today we're going to try and map out the following day of the bomb attacks in Ankara. To help us with that is Zenonas Tziarras, Analyst for the Diplomatic Academy. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
I'm going to go straight to the point because I've read in a lot of places, a lot of sites, in a lot of blogs, other analysts saying that the bomb attacks in Ankara are an equivalent of the 9/11 attacks in the US, in the sense that it's a vocal point, that there's no turning back to the day before that. Would you subscribe to that idea?
Well, one could argue that this is maybe the 9/11 of Turkey in terms of the fact that there hasn't been such a big attack in Turkish history thus far. So from that perspective, it is a very important, very tragic, perhaps the most tragic event in terms of a terrorist attack that happened in Turkey. Now, in terms of its political impact and dimensions, it may well be a focal point, as you noted, that will very much influence what will happen from now on, that will probably impact the election results of November 1st, and generally influence the development of the Turkish political scene from now on. Now, we should note that this transformation in Turkish politics, this change, is not just a product of what happened in Ankara, but it's something that has been going on for a few years. So this may also be seen, these bombing attacks could also be seen as the climax of a polarizing kind of situation within Turkey that is very much linked and related to the AKP's politics, and particularly President Erdogan's approach to democracy, Erdogan's pursuit for more power, and so on.
So what you're saying is that Erdogan himself and his party actually helped this crisis to escalate when, after the elections, the outcome wasn't what they had hoped for. So they started polarizing the peoples and the parties in order to gain more support, and that brought about the climax, the bomb attacks?
Yes, of course, the bomb attacks themselves are not necessarily, from what we know, Erdogan's doing, or the AKP's doing, or even the intelligence services doing, as some argue.
But no one argues that. The thing is,
yes,
did they polarize the
They did. The fact is that the politics of polarization and the domestic and foreign policies followed by Erdogan may have created the situation where the doors were open for such attacks and such, of course, protests, such as the one taking place at the day of the attack, happening in Turkey. So there is a social reaction to what Erdogan is doing from the Kurds and from other parts of the society. And at the same time, we have a situation where Turkey's policies in Syria, for example, have led to a great instability within the country, and to an insecure state where people cannot feel safe, where the borders with Syria are very porous, and therefore terrorist organizations could infiltrate and conduct attacks within Turkey, and so on. So it is a general situation. It is a situation that has been brewing for some time, and it's not only after the June elections, but it's also a product of a number of constitutional changes or laws that have been promoted by the AKP over the, say, past 5 years to keep it in the near past.
Is this a conflict between Turks and Kurds, or is this something deeper?
I think it is something deeper. The conflict between Kurds and Turks is only a dimension of it. It's only maybe a collateral damage of it. I think it's Erdogan's willingness and effort to gain as many votes as he can has led him to as we said before, a majoritarian approach to democracy. Now, in order for him to get the necessary percentage in the elections, he needs to bring around 43 to 45% to the polls to vote for the AKP. Now, to do that, he needs to alienate parts of the society, including the Kurds, and play what we call the nationalist card, which is to intensify feelings of nationalism and draw votes from the nationalist wing of the AKP, but also from other parties like the Nationalist Movement Party, the MHP, and also weaken the pro-Kurdish party. So it is a situation where not only the Kurds are marginalized and treated differently, but also more liberal and secular parts of the society and other minorities as well.
How would you comment on Erdogan's action to go and bomb PKK parts and positions right after the bomb attacks that he himself condemned?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in view, of course, that PKK had said that they would not go on with any attacks or any actions after the attacks.
Yes, I think that all movements targeting the Kurds or the PKK more specifically have to do with the government's insecurity and the instability that is in Syria. So it is a way, and we've seen this for some time now, that for Turkey to prevent a reinforced Kurdish movement within Turkey to be able to claim more rights or more territory, and prevent them also from establishing maybe some sort of a semi-autonomous territory within Turkey, and the government hits Kurdish targets within Turkey as well as in Syria and Iraq for the same reason. So it's a strategy of deterring and limiting the Kurdish military movement from achieving further goals in the region.
The thing is that the specific attacks were just a few hours after the bomb attacks that he himself condemned, that said that should have never took place, that peace and stability should come in Turkey, and that this is unacceptable and we need to be humane and we need to keep levels quite low, try to be as peaceful as possible. And then right after finishing his sentence, he goes and orders these attacks on Kurds that had been bombed hours earlier. Some people put those two together, saying that they're not independent one from the other.
Yes, of course there's many people saying, and they use a lot of other evidence as well, saying that the bombing was, as I said before, maybe Erdogan's doing, and that Erdogan was targeting Turks in Ankara and targeting Kurds in Ankara and targeting Kurds elsewhere as well, in an effort to maybe limit their ability to act politically or militarily. But I think that what Erdogan is doing is trying to equate different kinds of terrorism as Turkey sees it. So on the one hand you have PKK, and on the other hand you have ISIS. So they've been trying to do this all along with the Islamic State. So they want to project an understanding that PKK is no different that the Islamic State. And if the bombings in Ankara, for example, were either Islamic State's doing, or the PKK is doing, or anyone else is doing, it doesn't matter for the Turkish government.
In Tziarras, it's the same thing. That's why we go and bomb them.
So yes, we bomb anyone who we may think that has committed this attack, because anyway, terrorist groups such as those that I mentioned are no different from each other.
You repeatedly touched upon the subject of the election, the upcoming election in Turkey, and how all this is going to affect. Do you think that his policy, Erdogan's policy, is going to work? Will he be able to win what he lost in the June election? Or is this going to backfire?
To be honest, at this point, I don't think he will be able to achieve that. At an earlier point, when the initial attacks against the Islamic State started and the PKK at the same time, this could have been achieved because no matter how wrong the policy was or right, it was seen as a right way, as a right step forward. But as things progressed, Erdogan focused specifically on, solely on the PKK, and this had a huge backlash at home from the Kurds in southeastern Anatolia, southeastern Turkey, and in other urban centers. So I think this eventually, ultimately, has not weakened the Kurdish movement. It has strengthened the Kurdish movement. And no matter how Erdogan plays the nationalist card, I don't think that he will be able to draw so many votes, so many nationalist votes that will allow him to win the elections and get a great majority in the parliament. For that, it would also need for the pro-Kurdish party to get less than 10%, which would be, at this point, I think, very difficult.
As you said, Erdogan and AKP are looking towards the direction of nationalist parties. And to get the support, they need to promise things. They need to accept things from their agenda. And we know that nationalist Turkish party's agenda includes Cyprus as well.
Yes.
Would that have an effect on the Cyprus talks for the solution of our problem? Because we've already seen a shift from Akinci, and some would say it's because of what Erdogan is trying to do, moving up and going forth with the election.
Akinci's change of rhetoric, although it's a more complicated matter, could be related to that. But you're right in that the whole talk about the Cyprus problem, or the whole debate and different kind of rhetorics within Turkey in view of the upcoming elections will most probably affect the Cyprus problem as well, because indeed the nationalist rhetoric will be intensified. And this will be the case for the AKP, for the MHP, and probably the CHP as well, the CHP. And this, in turn, might have, not only during this pre-election period, but also after the elections, if we have a weakened AKP, or we have a strange balance of power within the parliament, this might have an impact on how things in Cyprus progress as well, because the nationalist stance, the nationalist positions will probably be more strengthened within the parliament.
So to conclude this interview, do you think that Turkey and Erdogan have reached the point of no return?
I think they have. And I think that as long as Erdogan remains in power, this polarizing situation will not stop in Turkey. But if Erdogan steps down or gets elected off at some point in the future, then things might de-escalate, even if the AKP remains to power with a different leader. So I think Erdogan is probably the point of friction at this point in Turkish society and politics.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching.